Alright guys, we're here at Misano at race number 5 on the season. Had a great race last week at Zandvoort, and we're hoping to continue that here. We are going to start paying closer attention to the points standings after this race. We're going to start paying more attention to them going forward. Right now, what I can tell you is Mike Wojcik is number 1 in the points, Mike Dougherty is number 2 in the points, and John Snow is number 3. And those three guys have kind of separated themselves from the bunch a little bit. But after the race today, we're going to go onto SimGP, and we'll look at the current standings all the way through. I think it's the top 25 or 26 people have all scored points. So we'll update that after the race today and see where we stand after tonight's race. See, we're having a little bit of a connection issue. Looked like Jonathan Bryan disconnected and then reconnected before the race started here. So our running order for tonight is going to be John Snow, followed by Mike Dougherty, Mike Wojcik, Andre Marcheshin, Alex Moda, David Macedo, Pedro Perez, Ken North, Joe Marsiglia, Nick Driveman, Eric Tong, Ben Wolf, Scott Taylor, Bruce Hopkins, Lorenzo Liu, Logan Wolf, DJ Young, Johnson Liu, and Jonathan Bryan. So we got a lot of guys we're going to be keeping a close eye on. Once again, Johnson Liu is starting in 18th place. He started in 19th place last race, but he finished 10th. So not sure what's going on with him. Uh-oh, you see something going on with Mike Dougherty back there. Dougherty's car is just sitting in the middle of the track, and for some reason, even though it's ghosted, it is reacting to the other cars hitting it. Not sure what's going on for Mike right now. Everybody else is moving along. Not really sure. Oh, and he's gone. So it looks like Dougherty is having some connection problems to start the race here. Hopefully he can get rejoined and start in the pits to at least give him a chance to earn some points in the race. So the points battle up front, that actually has a lot to do with what's going on in the front, because right now Dougherty was second place behind Wojcik, and he was only a few points behind Wojcik. And John Snow was in third, and John's got the pole. So if John is able to pull out a win here today, that might, depending on where Dougherty finishes, that might be enough for him to take second place. But we'll see where it goes once we get through the race. A lot of race left to be had with Wojcik, Marcheshin, Moda, Macedo, and Pedro, Ken North, all behind John Snow. There's nothing guaranteed at all. Those guys are all really, really fast. Alex Moda has shown really, really good pace here. David Macedo starting to find the pace that he had last season once again, and he's coming back. Looks like finding some speed in that Aston Martin, so he's getting a lot more track time too, which I'm sure doesn't hurt. So, but we look forward to some good battles all over the track tonight. You know, we race on Saturday nights. It's an hour-long race. We got a 20-minute pit window in the middle, so there's 20 minutes without a pit, 20 minutes of a pit window in the middle, and then 20 minutes after the window closes of just racing. So that's what we're looking at. These guys don't have to take tires. They don't have to take fuel. Some guys' strategies is to run with a full fuel load from the start of the race, not take any fuel, not take any tires, and take their chances with worn tires all the way through the race. You see Mike Dougherty is back with us, but he is... Oh, he's not actually on the server yet, but he looks like he's coming back. Oh, and he's gone again. So I'm not sure. They're coming down towards the start here. So this is going to give John Snow a big advantage for the start, with Dougherty disconnecting after they had gridded up. So that's going to put Snow by himself on the front row. It's going to give him a pretty good advantage at the start, not having to deal with Dougherty. And there you go, there's the green flag. So you see him coming down here. This track is a very challenging track, but we didn't have a lot of off-track incidents this week. A lot of guys did better here. I think it's a more forgiving track, a lot of slow sweeping turns, but it's a wider track than some of the ones that we've recently raced on. You see everybody back here keeping it nice and clean. Some really close racing going on between these guys. You see Pedro jammed in between Alex Moda and Ken North. They're spreading out a little bit on this straight here, but really close racing by all these guys. Let's switch back to the TV camera. You see John trying to get a good start. He was really dominant last week at Zandvoort. Really kind of ran away with the race, left everybody else to fight for the other positions. He had a 10-second lead when he pitted, lost most of that lead because of his pit stop not being as fast, or his outlap, whichever one it was, wasn't as fast, so he lost all the way down to 3 seconds. But then by the end of the race, he had it all the way back up to 10 seconds again. So he really dominated the race last week. You see Wojcik getting a little bit wide there. Wojcik trying to keep the pressure on Snow. Take a look back through the... Alex Moda is in 5th. He started in 4th, so Macedo able to get the position from him. That's going to give Moda a little bit of a problem to try to get past Macedo, because Macedo is very fast here so far this weekend. There is a lot of places to pass on this track. There's plenty of long, slow turns. There's also some high-speed sweepers. The track is very wide, so if you get a good run through one of those, you can catch the guy on the next straight. See Pedro getting around Moto right there. That's a good move by Pedro. We don't see Pedro in attack mode that often, but he's gotten so much speed this season. Whoa, these guys almost come together. You see Moto hugging the inside there. He's going to get the pass, it looks like, off the drive off the corner. They're in a drag race, but the Moto's going to have the inside on the next turn. And he's going to be able to get it done. So good racing by these guys, battling back and forth. You see behind this, Eric Tong and Joe Marsiglia, they're in a really good battle for 8th place right now. These guys duking it out a little bit. And you look at Johnson Liu, he's already all the way up to 16th place, so he's already gained 2 positions. He was the race's biggest mover last week. He gained 10 positions by the end of the race. Started in 19th and finished in 9th or 10th. So either gained 9 or 10 positions, but he had a really good race and pretty much spent the entire night just picking people off left and right. So we'll see if he can do that again. Not sure why he's qualifying towards the back of the pack, but during the race he's got a lot of speed, so very fast in that Porsche. See Moda trying to stay in front of Pedro here. Let's take a look back at John Snow. He's got the lead up to 0.7, so he's definitely not pulling away yet. Wojcik just enough of a lead on Marchician. He's 1.3 on Marchician, so Wojcik doesn't quite have to worry about Marchician right now. He can focus on Snow ahead of him. These guys were all really fast here in practice and in qualifying. You see everybody starting to space out a little bit. Things are opening up just a little bit. We still got Moda, who's right on David Macedo in the battle for 4th place. Let's take a look on board with Moda. He's been really fast here all night in this Porsche. I think this track is a really good track for the Porsche. We've seen him put down some really quick laps, really consistent. But there are some very high-speed sections, which we know the Porsche has a little bit of a disadvantage to most cars in these high-speed, depending on how you have it set up. But in some of these high-speed areas, there's a little bit of a disadvantage with the Porsche. But you see Andre digging, trying to catch up to Wojcik. He's pulled a little bit of a gap to David Macedo, so he's a little more comfortable now than he was before. Let's take a look back here. We've got Eric Tong, who has caught up to Ken North, and he's still doing battle with Joe Marsiglia, so these guys are close together. Ken just in front of Eric. See, Eric runs a little wide there. Marsiglia not able to take advantage of it, but he's all over him now. Let's see. We've also got Ben Wolf. He is hounding Scott Taylor right now for 11th place. So a battle going on between these guys. Behind that is Lorenzo Liu, followed by Logan Wolf. And Logan has got Johnson Liu behind him, which is not a good thing for anybody, because Johnson seems to enjoy hunting people down throughout the race. So let's see, we'll keep an eye on this. Right now Johnson's at 2.4 seconds behind Logan Wolf. So we'll keep an eye on who is where and what's going on here. So you see Scott Taylor in front of Johnson Liu. Something must have happened to Scott, because he was up in 11th place, but he's falling back, so not sure what happened there. You see behind Johnson is a new driver we don't really know much about. His name is Bruce Hopkins. And here's Bruce in the BMW. He's kind of got a that paint scheme makes me think of Bobby Labonte, honestly. If you ever watched NASCAR back in the 90s, Bobby Labonte usually drove really bright colored cars, and so that the first thing I thought of when I saw this was Labonte. But not sure what kind of speed Bruce has, but we're glad to have him with us, and hopefully he'll have a good race with us tonight. So let's take a look back towards the front. Right now, John Snow is starting to open up a lead right now on Wojcik. He's 2.3 ahead of Wojcik. You see the gap there. Starting to pull away a little bit. And John has just been incredibly fast the past couple of weeks. He's found another gear. We saw Wojcik dominate a couple of races pretty handily and just kind of run away with a couple of races, and now we're seeing John Snow dominate a couple of races in a row. I mean, this one, there's still a lot of racing left here, but this is 2 races in a row where he's out in front and he's, slowly gapping the guys behind him. So, and he was doing this in practice races this week and on Wednesday, and also in qualifying. So a lot of domination by John, and you see the gaps opening up behind these guys. So Marcheshin, he's kind of fallen off of Wojcik. He's now 1.6 behind Wojcik. David Macedo's 1.1 behind Marcheshin. Now Moda, on the other hand, is still all over David Macedo. Trying to figure out a way past Macedo. Meanwhile, back here, Lorenzo Liu has closed the gap down on Ben Wolf, and he's kind of all over Ben Wolf. Ben Wolf is right on the tail of Joe Marsiglia, so we got 3 guys in a battle back here. You see Marsiglia there in the Ferrari. He's got some damage on the front of that car. Not sure what happened, but he's still running in 9th. You see Wolf looking to the inside, but doesn't try to make a move there. We see Pedro running in 6th. Pedro has been really consistent this season. He missed a couple of races because he wasn't able to be here, had some family stuff going on, but Pedro has, when he has been here, he's been right around that top 5 every race. He's really been having a good season so far. So you see David Macedo here. He is now 1 second off of Andre Marchishin. So he's showing really good pace. David kind of came back to life last week. He had a really good finish, and he had kind of had some misfortune and wasn't able to race because of some personal things, so he hasn't gotten the track time this year, and that makes it extra hard trying to learn a new car when you're just not able to put in that much time on the track. But the last couple weeks, I think he's been able to put in quite a bit more, and it's really showing with the speed that he showed in these 2 races. So we see him. Andre was really quick here this week. Well, tonight. Andre wasn't around most of the week, but was able to have a lot of speed here regardless. And so you see David has pulled a pretty good gap on Alex Moda now. He's up over 1.5 seconds in front of Moda. And Moda kind of stuck in no man's land between Macedo and Pedro. So this is where the battles are at. There kind of is no battle for first place right now. John is all by himself up here. We always joke that whoever, if anybody dominates the race, they don't get much screen time because they're kind of all by themselves. It's not that fun to watch one car to go around the track by itself, but we've seen quite a bit of domination by Wojcik and Snow this year, so we've given these guys a lot of credit for their driving. John's putting on a pretty good performance right now. He's 4.5 seconds ahead of Wojcik. Not showing any signs of slowing down. And you can see between 6th and 7th place, Ken North is now 10.2 seconds off of Pedro Perez. So there is a pretty large gap between 6th and 7th place, and I don't know if something happened to these guys or if they just don't have the pace that the guys in front have. You see Eric Tong back there. They're kind of spread out too between Eric Tong and Joe Marsiglia now. Marsiglia still has Wolf and Lorenzo Liu right behind him. You see the next pack behind that is Johnson Liu, Logan Wolf, and Scott Taylor. So these guys are all together. And then back here, let's see, where are they at? Back here, we've got Mike Dougherty, who started in the pits. He was in the pits at the start of the race when the green flag waved. He has moved his way up to 16th place. Whoa, and you see Nick Dryman bring the car around right there, just able to avoid contact the other guys there. Really close call. So that's going to give Dougherty 15th place after 9 laps. So he's been able to come from the pits all the way up to 4 spots in just under 10 laps, so that's pretty good performance by him so far. We know Mike's really fast. He qualified second. Mike's pretty much fast at every track, but he had a considerable amount of speed here, so unlucky to get disconnected right before the race. But every position counts for points, so hopefully he can gain as many as possible and still score some points to keep himself in the hunt for the championship. Meanwhile, back up towards the front, David Macedo. Wait a minute, we missed something. Wojcik is now in third. Something happened to Mike. You see Marchishin behind him. David Macedo behind Marchishin. So Wojcik holding on to second. You see him, oh, he gets loose there. Oh, ends up in the wall. Able to get back on the track, but he lost a ton of speed. That's going to cost him second place. And then Macedo right on his heels. He's lucky he's able to get back up to speed there. Don't know how much damage he has on that BMW, but he's going to try to hold on to it. So these guys, these 4 or 5 cars are all really close together right now. You see Pedro pulling up the rear of this pack. Let's take a look on board with Moto. Just see what it's like to be in this train going around the track. You see these guys all close together. Coming down the front stretch here. These guys all get really close to that wall coming into turn 1. These curbs on this track have these secondary bumpers. If you look, you'll see them. They're across the grain of the turn. And if you hit one of those wrong, those yellow and black bumpers, those things will send you flying. You see David get a little loose there, able to hold on to the position. Moto right on him here. You see Pedro in the rear view there. He's a little ways back, so Moto doesn't have to worry about Pedro right now. He's just focused on the guy in front. You see Wojcik look like he's really closing in on Marchishin up ahead. Interesting to see which one of those guys can win that battle, because they were both really, really quick in practice and really quick in qualifying. So far, Wojcik seems pretty good as far as damage goes. Seems like he's able to get through that incident without much of a loss of speed, so lucky there to get away with that one. See Alex really getting on the curbs. He's jumping across those black and yellow bumpers. In my time on this track, I try to avoid those things, but these guys have got their cars set up where they can run them over without losing control. So that's all part of the tuning process, you know, getting everything set where you can cut the curves and not wipe out or spin out. So that's why we practice all week. That's why we have practice races on Wednesday, so you can kind of figure that stuff out. Interesting battle between all these guys. They're all pretty evenly matched. A lot of speed between the 4 of them. You see David a little wide on that turn again. He's the same spot he was last time. Not sure if he's struggling with the tires or if he's just maybe hasn't quite figured that turn out. Just a little bit loose through there. He showing great speed through this long high-speed section here. Take a look on board with Wojcik. He is right on the tail of Marchishin. These guys, you know, John might have checked out a little while ago. He's quite a ways ahead, but the battles rage on back here. There's a lot of good racing going on throughout the field. Speaking of that, let's take a look at Lorenzo Liu. He is on Joe Marsiglia right now in the battle for 9th place. Up ahead of Marsiglia is Eric Tong. So Eric had pulled away a little bit, and now Joe has caught back up to him just about. So this might be a pretty interesting battle between these three in a couple of laps here. Behind this, we've got Ben Wolf, who's behind Lorenzo by about a second. Then we got Johnson Liu, who's 1.7 seconds back. But we know he is very fast, so we're not sure where he's going to end up. You know, be interesting to see what Johnson could do if he started towards the front, because he shows a ton of speed during the race. So see how he's closed this gap down already on Ben Wolf. He's got it down under a second, and I think it's lower than it's showing 0.9, but I think it's quite a bit lower than that right now. He is right on. All these guys tightening up. Looks like Eric might be struggling for pace a little bit in the Aston Martin. Everybody bunching up behind him, or maybe he had a little misstep. Coming through this high speed section here, these guys 5 in a row. You really have to be careful with the guy in front of you not to hit him from behind, because you know that's a really high speed section with an aggressive braking zone. Guys all did a good job getting through there. Oh, and there you see Marsiglia and Tong both going into the pits. So that's going to separate this group for now. Johnson Liu looking for the inside going into turn 1 here on Ben Wolf. He's going to take a lot of the bumper. Rough ride right there. I think he's still on his left side. Wolf finally concedes the position, falls in behind him. So there's Johnson Liu up to 9th place after starting in 18th. So he's already gained 9 positions, having a really good race so far. Next in front of him is, I think it's his brother Lorenzo. I believe those guys are brothers. Actually, excuse me, Johnson is in 8th right now. Now keep in mind, some of these guys have pitted. That's all going to shuffle its way back out whenever the pits are all finished. Everybody will kind of shuffle back out into the proper positions. But we see Jon Snow here. He's got 13 laps, just made it 14 laps. He's not pitting. This other group of leaders, these guys aren't pitting. They're all staying out. Unfortunately, on the replay, it doesn't show me when the pit window opens. So like I said before, oh man, you see Eric Tong got a 30-second drive-through, or a 30-second stop and go, and so did Scott Taylor. So we got 2 guys with a 30-second penalty. That's going to ruin some pretty good battles that were going on there. This is a very complicated, not complicated, but it's a very sketchy entrance to the pit on this track. It sneaks up on you. You can come in really fast if you're not careful and be speeding when you come in. So it's one you have to kind of practice a few times to get it right. You see Wojcik dealing with Moda still. So Scott Taylor here, he's the slow car that's trying to let these guys go. So he lets Andre go. Now he's got Wojcik coming around the outside of him, and Moda. This is through that high speed section of the track. He's trying to stay out of the way of David, but ends up little bit in front of David, and then he lets him go. So David loses a little bit of time getting around that. That's just a risky part of the track there, to have 4 cars passing you at the same time. So that's going to cost David a little bit of time, put him back behind these guys. You see Moda still right on Wojcik. And Marchician has just a little bit of breathing room. He's about a second ahead of Wojcik, so not a lot of breathing room, but just a little bit where he can try to focus on his race. Meanwhile, Wojcik's got Moda all over him. Back behind this, Johnson Liu has now caught up to Lorenzo Liu. So let's check back on the leaders, see if these guys are going to pit anytime soon. We got John Snow here. John's got a pretty hefty lead. He's up to over 11 seconds gap on second place, and he is not going to pit, so he's staying out. Let's take a look at the rest of these guys. So Marchician, he's staying out. Wojcik staying out, Moda, Macedo. Well, we know Macedo's staying out. He always pits really late in the pit window. So none of these guys are pitting right now. Now some of the other guys in the field have pitted, so that's going to kind of throw things off who's where, and we're going to have to wait till that all kind of sorts itself out. But you see Bruce Hopkins is in front of Pedro Perez, so Pedro must have pitted already. Pedro with the early pit. Now he's dealing with Bruce in a battle for 12th position. Meanwhile, see Moda taking a completely different line than Wojcik coming through that turn. Moda getting up alongside Wojcik there. It's a drag race down the straight. Moda's going to have the advantage coming into the turn, and into the next turn he's going to have the advantage again, but it's a high-speed section. And Wojcik's going to late break and beat him through there, so really close racing there between those guys, able to hold it together. That's a dangerous part of the track to try to make a pass, but it's such a high-speed area that you get a good run on somebody and you just kind of go for it. So Moda's still all over Wojcik. You see the gap to David Macedo is 1.5 seconds behind Moda, so I don't know if Macedo's really catching these guys, but he's not being left behind. Yeah, he is catching them. It's down to 1.1 now, so he's actually catching the guys ahead. So Macedo showing great pace after that hang-up he had with the lap car. See Wojcik pulling a little bit of a gap on Moda. But there's certain parts of the track, some of the tighter parts of the track, where Moda catches everybody. He's really quick in that Porsche through certain sections. You see the different line that he's taken through these turns than Wojcik. Completely different racing line. Moda staying a lot more to the inside and very tight with the Porsche. You see this is that high-speed section through here. These guys really cranking it up right here. Over 150 miles per hour through that section, and then back all the way down to first gear through this really hard right-hander, and then into the sweeping left-hander. And there's Moda diving off into the pit, so Moda's going to pit wasn't able to pass Wojcik, but maybe that's okay because his strategy is obviously different. So he's jumping into the pits. He was in 4th place when he went into the pits. And speaking of the pits, we still haven't seen a pit stop by anybody else in the front except Moda. So we know Jon Snow likes to kind of stay out. We know that. So here comes Ken North. He's going to pass Moda, who's still in the pits. So that's going to give Ken 5th. Johnson Liu is going to be all the way up to 6th. Now, some of that's because of people pitting and whatnot. So Johnson still has to pit, but considering where he started, that's pretty impressive. And then Mike Dougherty is in 9th right now. Considering that he started in the pits when everybody else was getting the green flag, he was coming out of pit lane. Really good racing by Dougherty so far. He's doing a great job. He's now currently being shown in 8th place. We'll see where he's at once he's pitted and everybody else is pitted, but really good job by him so far. So you see John, he's going to stay out for at least one more lap. Here comes the other guys, Marchician, Wojcik, both going to stay out. And we know David's going to stay out. He stays behind these guys. Oh, and you see the drive-through penalty there for Logan Wolf. So that's going to hurt him for position. Probably for track limits. I mean, we can only guess because it doesn't tell us, but usually a drive-through is for track limits. So that's going to give Pedro 10th place, and he's of course still waiting for some people up ahead of him to pit so that he can get back where he was. You see Moda behind Pedro back there. Now that is actually for position. So Pedro, let's see what the split is. He is 11 seconds ahead of Moda, 11.4. So Pedro typically doesn't take tires. Moda always takes tires. So you got Moda, who spent the extra time in the pits to change tires. He is going to be much faster than Pedro, but he's got, now it's showing 13.7 seconds to the car in front. But the car in front is Logan, who has to do a drive-through. So here in a minute, that's going to adjust. Yeah, it's 11.0 to Pedro. So let's get back to the front. Here is Jon Snow, still not pitting. Andre Marchician, still not pitting. Neither is Wojcik. Let's check on Macedo. He doesn't either. So an interesting battle here between Mike Dougherty and Johnson Liu. These guys, they're the headhunters tonight. They both started in the back, and they both have been picking people off all race, so now they're in a head-to-head battle with each other. Not sure who the faster car is. We really don't know how fast Johnson is as far as lap times, because he always qualifies in the back, but in the actual race he's really fast, so we're not sure what his actual pace is. We know Dougherty's very fast, so not sure how that's gonna settle itself out, but interesting battle to keep an eye on between these two guys. Alright, so let's go back here to our leader. We're on 20 laps. We're on the 21st lap right now. We are going to be running 38 laps tonight. So 38 laps, so 18 more laps to go. So we're past the halfway point of the race. John running a little bit wide there, but he's got a comfortable lead. He's at 15.2 seconds ahead, and he is not going to pit again, so he's going to stay out. Let's take a look at these guys behind him here. Here comes Marchician. He is not going to pit either. Neither is Wojcik, neither is Macedo. So these guys they're going for the long play for sure. You got Ken North. Ken's if he doesn't have a good outlap after his pit stop, he's going to have some problems, because Dougherty and Liu are both really, really fast. Of course, Ken was really fast this week too, so it's hard to say where they would be. We know Dougherty was faster. He qualified second, but Ken having a really nice race so far, currently being shown in 5th place. We know some of that's going to shuffle, but you take a look at the lap times. Jon Snow's best lap time was a 1:34.8. His last lap was a 1:36 flat, so just over a second slower, about 1.2 seconds slower than the fastest lap he's put on, which is the fastest lap of the race, the 1:34.8. So that's currently the fastest lap of the race. So with these worn tires with 21 laps on them, he's only lost just over a second per lap. Well, we assume that might have been a slower lap for him last lap. You see, he's going to go past the pits again, so he's going to stay out a little bit longer. Let's take a look at these guys coming through here. Marchician is going to pit, so he's coming in. Wojciech's going to stay out. David Macedo is going to stay out. See Dougherty on the back of Johnson Liu right now still, and these guys are both about to pit, so that is going to sort some things out here. That's going to give Pedro, he's going to be back up into the top 6 or so, because he already pitted, so this is where he is for the race. So there's Pedro. Alex Mota has cut the lead to Pedro down by a little over 2 seconds, so he's down to 9 seconds behind Pedro, which is a pretty big gap, but we know Mota took tires, so Mota is going to have a speed advantage over Pedro, and that advantage will increase as the race goes on, because Pedro, his tires are going to fade more and more. Let's see, so Dougherty, he's already coming back out of the pits. Johnson is still in the pits, so Dougherty didn't take tires. Johnson Liu did take tires, so that's going to help Dougherty get out ahead of Johnson Liu. It's going to decide that battle pretty handily right there, and we will see where Dougherty... Okay, so Jon Snow is in the pits. David Macedo, Wojciech is in the pits. David Macedo, of course, is not in the pits. David is as dependable as the tides. He does not pit until the last minute. I mean, I just don't think he wants to give up his tires. He always likes his tires. He doesn't want to change them, or doesn't want whatever. I guess he doesn't take tires, so that's not what it is. But for whatever reason, he just doesn't like to pit until the last minute. But you see, what it does is every race just about, at some point, David ends up leading the race, as he currently is right now, leading the race. And maybe that's the simple fact of why he does it. But it does work out for him. He seems to pass people with his pit strategy every single race. So we'll see where, once he pits, where he ends up. Putting in, let's see if it pops up what his lap times are right now. You see him coming through this high speed section. And now he's coming in, so he's got the lead for the moment, but we know Jon Snow is on his way, and Jon had a big lead when he pitted, so he should handily have the lead back in this race. see John dealing with a lot of lap traffic in front of him and behind him. Here he comes past pit lane right now. David's just stopping in his box right now, so John's going to come past, take the lead of the race back. And then Marchician, he's coming down the front stretch with, oh, this is going to be pretty close right here. Marchician coming down the front stretch. Where did Macedo end up? Oh, he's just coming out. Okay. So Macedo, or no, he's in front of him. So Macedo is in front of Marchician. He actually managed to pass both of the guys in front of him. Actually, he managed to pass Marchician, Wojcik, and Moda. Now, Moda took tires, so that's a different strategy, but he was able to get past all three of those guys with the pit strategy. Now, all of these guys, Snow, Macedo, Marchician, and Wojcik, are on old tires, so none of these guys have an advantage. Same thing for Pedro Perez. So it's just about who can be quicker on old tires. So it's a battle of attrition at this point. It's a marathon, not a sprint, basically, is what we're looking at here. So these guys are all in the battle for position, but then back here, Moda, he's got fresh tires. I mean, at least a lot fresher than theirs. So he took tires. He's now 5.8 seconds behind Pedro. So he's starting to make up a lot of time. You see Pedro there. He's making up a lot of time on Perez. And then Ken North, if it's still the way it was before, there's a big gap between Moda and Ken North. Ken North was in 7th before, and he was kind of the cutoff where the front 6 were way out in front, and then 7th place back was quite a bit further back. So Ken is still kind of all by himself right now, running in no man's land a little bit. He is 14.5 seconds behind Moda, so unless Moda makes a really big mistake, Ken probably not going to be able to. Well, he's I don't know if Ken took tires or not, but Moda's got those fresh tires, so very unlikely he's going to catch him. Meanwhile, Dougherty is 4.9 seconds behind Ken North in 8th place, and we know Dougherty has really good pace here, so he might be able to catch Ken. We'll have to keep an eye on that. So Snow is still 16 seconds plus. He's got a big lead, so he's way out ahead of everybody. David Macedo, he's going to have to deal with Marchician. Marchician seems to have a little better pace than he does. I know Marchician couldn't have taken tires, so not sure why he has better pace. But he is putting the pressure on Macedo. Meanwhile, Wojcik has fallen back off of these guys. He's now 5.8 seconds behind here. And then Pedro's 8.8 behind him. Alex has got it down to 3.6 to Pedro. So Alex is cutting that lead down. You see Pedro right there. He's catching him quickly, very quickly. He's got big gaps between every car that's in front of him. So Alex is really going to have to be consistent to catch any of these guys. But if he can be consistent lap after lap, he's definitely going to catch Pedro. He might catch Wojcik. We'll see. We'll just see how consistent he can be. See him really taking a lot of the curb right there. So Moda is in hunting mode. Moda is in the wrong livery tonight, but the reason for that was when he first joined the server, he accidentally had the wrong livery selected, and when he changed it, he did change it for the race, but for some reason the replay saved it as the old one, and there's nothing I can do to change that. So he's still on. This is his old livery that he raced with all of last season, so still a good looking livery. I like the new one better, but it's similar, green and orange. So a lot of similarities between the two. The new one's just a lot darker. So let's see, Moda's now got it down to 2.9 seconds. So let's take a look on board with Moda. That this is that high speed area of the track. 2.9 seconds looks really big through this section because you're going so fast. But you see, as these guys tighten down through these slow turns, Moda is going to close the gap down. It's now down to 1.8, so he's really catching Pedro. In a situation like this, it's just it's an inevitability that it's going to happen. So you just kind of hope that both guys give each other room, show some respect, let each other, get sorted out, no contact, that kind of thing. That's what we're hoping for. So you see, Moda, his best lap was a 1:35.255. His last lap was a 1:35.9. So very consistent so far. Of course, he took tires, so he's able to maintain better speed than the rest of these guys on the front. So he's got it down to 0.8 seconds now on Pedro. Really able to come into that braking zone with some aggression there. He's got the lead pretty much all but gone now on Pedro. It's just a matter of figuring out where to make a move on him. Pedro in the Bentley's got good drive off the corner. There is a definite advantage for the Porsche through these braking zones, though. Moda is going to make a move to the inside there, keeps it tight all the way around the inside, and he's going to get it done. So he's got an advantage in the braking zones, and in those tight corners, the Porsche is just better, especially with fresh tires. But even without fresh tires, the Porsche handles those situations a little bit better than the Bentley does. So that's going to put Moda up into fifth. Now he's in the process of hunting down Wojciech, who is, we'll have to wait till it updates. We can tell you what the split is from Moda to Wojciech. It's 9.8 seconds. So 9.8 seconds back to, or up to Wojciech. Meanwhile, these guys are duking it out. Andre is all over David Macedo here. So David, with the pit strategy, able to gain some positions. These guys dealing with each other as well as lap traffic. You see DJ giving these guys plenty of room. Good job by him to let them continue to battle. A little bit of shuffling going on between these two guys. They're really, really close. Coming through this high-speed section of the track right here. Andre is going to take the inside. Oh, and they make contact. David spins it around, so does Andre. Oh, DJ Young gets caught up in it. Just an innocent bystander there. That's going to give... Macedo gets back on the track. Wojciech is behind Macedo. That's going to cause Andre to fall back to fourth place. Not really sure what happened there. Let's take a look in the on-board. So Andre is all over him coming through this section here. I mean, he's been all over him for a few laps now. Peeking to the inside through this high-speed section and tries to go through the inside there, but I don't know if that was ever going to work. I'm not sure. That's why we have stewards to look at stuff like that, but I think it was just a racing incident between these guys. Definitely nothing malicious or anything like that. Meanwhile, Macedo holding on to second. He is... see once the times update how far Macedo is ahead of Wojciech. Okay, so he's 3.2 seconds ahead of Wojciech. And then Marcheshin is 4.5 seconds behind Wojciech. What this is going to do is this is going to create a scenario where Marcheshin is now next in line for Alex Moda. And we know Alex is on a sprint trying to get to the front with those fresh tires. Remember, when all the pit stops started, he was one of the guys who pitted early. He was in 4th place when the pit stops kind of started cycling through. So if nothing else, he's trying to get back to where he was, all things being even, to get back to 4th place. So we'll see if he can pull that off or not. He's 4.3 seconds behind Andre. Now Andre has had better pace than Pedro, so he's going to be harder to catch than Pedro was. He caught Pedro at a blistering pace, but I think Pedro's tires are falling off pretty bad, and he was kind of easy pickings for Moda, but we'll see if he can catch Andre the same way. We'll keep an eye on the split between these guys. Let's take a look back through the field here and just see. There's Dougherty in front of Ken North, so we missed something. I don't know when it happened. We're not going to go back and try to find it, but at some point Dougherty got around Ken North, so Dougherty is up into 7th place. It's not because we don't want to show off good driving by Mike. It's because it could have been 4 laps ago, so we're not gonna rewind to try to find it. But Dougherty's quite a bit ahead of North now, so it looks like it happened a while ago. These guys both having a great race. I mean, Ken hasn't had the pace that the top 6 or 7 have had, but he's still way out in front of the guys behind him. So he's kind of the second tier, caught in a gap between the front 6 and the back 10 or so. So Ken, good pace, just not quite what the leaders have. And I'm trying to look and see if there's any good battles going on back here. Everything's pretty spread out. You see Johnson Liu, he's up to 10th, so he started in 18th or 19th. I can't remember if he started in 18th or 19th, but he started at the back row. Now he's all the way up to 10th after all the pit stops and everything. We've only got about let's see, we're on the 32nd lap, so we've only got about 6 laps to go in the race. So for some reason Johnson has his flashers on. You see his emergency flashers are going off as he's going around the track. But so the battles that are going on between Wojcik's got it down to 2.8, so he is gaining on Macedo. Alex has got it down to 3.1 to Marchician, so he's catching Marchician pretty quickly. Everybody else, for the most part, is pretty spread out. We've only got about 6 laps to go, so unless people make mistakes, there's probably not going to be too much changes in position from this point forward. We're going to keep a close eye on that Alex Moda and Andre Marchician situation that's going on. It's down to 2.7 now, so he's gaining on him quickly. Meanwhile, we're looking at John Snow, and John is in a familiar place. He's all by himself out front, and we've seen this from John many times last season, and we've seen it a couple of times this season, and here we are seeing it again. So John is becoming a real big problem for everybody else in the league, because he's not just winning races. It's one thing to win, but it's another thing to win by a huge margin. You know, that's when you have that much pace that you're off the leader. It's kind of confusing. Like, what in the world am I supposed to do to catch that guy? You know, so a little bit of a challenge for the rest of these guys. You see how consistent David has been. His fastest lap was a 1:35.2, but his last lap was a 1:36.3. So despite being on the same tires for 32 laps, he's only 1 second different from his fastest lap in the race. So he is just killing it with consistency throughout this race. And see, Moda's got it down to 2.0. on Marchician, so he's catching Marchician at a pretty good pace right now. You see Marchician up ahead there. Let's take a look on board with Moda. There's certain parts of the track where he really makes up a lot of time, mostly in the braking zones and these slow sweepers. Porsche, I think Alex runs a lot of downforce, so he doesn't have the top end speed that some of these other guys have, but when he gets to the corners and the slow speed parts of the track, he really has a pretty good advantage over most of these guys. See him coming through here, but this is where the advantage is, these slow sweeping turns. Really able to make up some time on these guys in the braking zones and the slow turns. And that section right there brought it down to 1.3 seconds. Maybe even less than that. Now that we're looking at it here, he might be less than a second now. He's right on Marchician. See what the updated time says. But because of the tires, as well as the car he's driving, that combination of newer tires and the car he's driving is giving him such an advantage through the braking zones that he's gaining in every one. You see how much he's able to catch up to him on each one. It's down to 0.5 seconds right now. So he is all over Marchician. See Marchician in that high-speed turn able to pull a little bit of a gap on him. That Mercedes has a lot of power, really good acceleration. We've seen Marchician get really good starts at the beginning of the races because of the Mercedes, how good it is off the line. And then Alex catches right back up in the slow section. So it's an interesting yin and yang. You've got a fast car and a slower car that handles better. And you see one car pull away in one section and then the other car catches him in the other section, and it's pretty fun to watch. But it looks like it's just a matter of time before Alex catches him enough that he's going to be able to get by him. You see Wojcik up ahead there, about 3.5 seconds ahead of Marchician. We've only got about 4 laps to go. Actually, technically we're on the 35th lap, so we've only got about 3 laps to go. So I don't know if Moda's going to have enough time, even if he got past Marchician right now, to be able to catch Wojcik. But he's not worried about Wojcik right now. He's just got to figure out a way past Marchician here at the end of the race. There is another battle going on back here. Johnson Liu. Well, I said there was. Oh, that battle's over. Johnson Liu just got past Joe Marsiglia. Let's take a look at how that happened. See, Johnson gets a really good run coming out of that turn. He's just going to blow by Marsiglia coming down this long stretch right here into the slow turn. Joe dives in behind him, but Johnson's still picking people off even in the last few laps of the race here. That's going to give Johnson 9th place. That's 9 positions on the race so far that he's been able to gain. Let's get back to this battle between Moda and Marchician. Now, Andre is not an easy guy to pass. He's not afraid to defend, and he's very fast, so he's consistent, so even if you are a little bit faster than him, it's hard to get past a guy who's always on the racing line, doesn't make many mistakes. See Moda making a move up the inside, able to hold on to it and make the pass there, finally getting past Marchician. That's going to give Moda 4th place, which is where he was at before the pit stop, when he was battling with all these guys. It kind of makes you wonder, you know, if Moda didn't take tires, would he still be in the same exact position that he's in right now? Would he still be in 4th place, or would his car have fallen off more because of the driving style, or because of the way the Porsche, you kind of late brake with the Porsche and push it a little harder through the turns? Would the tires have fallen off more? Would he actually have fallen back some? Or would he still be in 4th place? And if so, is the differing strategy of taking tires, not taking tires, pretty much all the same in the end? We're not really sure. I think one of these days Alex is going to try not taking tires like the rest of these guys. But, I mean, he's consistently done exactly what he did tonight, which is be up in the top 5, pit, and then catch his way back up to the top 5 and end up just about where he was before he pitted. So we saw the same thing last season from Jay Roman. We saw Jay taking tires and Mike Dougherty not taking tires early in the season, and at the end of the race they were battling it out for the win. Totally different strategies, but at the end they would catch up. Roman would catch up to Dougherty, and then it would be if he could get past him in time or not. We saw that a couple times. So, but we are coming down to the end of this race, and our leader is still way out ahead. You see Joe Marsiglia there in front of John. We've got about 2 laps to go. Meanwhile, Wojcik has got it down to 2 flat, so he's 2.0 behind David Macedo, but as long as David doesn't make a mistake, it doesn't look like he's going to have enough time to catch David. He's been catching him, but he's been catching him very slowly. You see the updated time now, it's 1.8, so he's catching him, but with only 2 laps to go, I just don't know if he's got enough time to actually catch David. It would take a mistake on David's part for that to happen, which is always possible. It is a lot of pressure in those last couple laps of a race. So. Other than this, it doesn't look like we really have any battles going on. We got Lorenzo Liu back here. Johnson Liu, he's quite a ways behind Ken North, I believe, so I don't think there's any chance of him catching Ken. Meanwhile, John Snow is on the last lap of the race, so he's coming around to take the checkered flag. All he's got to do is keep it between the lines now. So he's got a huge lead, another comfortable win for John and the Bentley, and really impressive what he's been able to do the last couple of weeks with this really fast group of guys. To be able to dominate the way he has is it's no easy task, that's for sure. Showed great speed, but more importantly, he's shown an incredible amount of consistency. Just lap after lap after lap, no mistakes, keeping it clean. You see Johnson Liu. Johnson's having such a great race. He's in 9th place, and John is coming around to lap him. That's how dominant John is right now. So he's really, really dominated tonight. Same thing with last week. So it makes you wonder what would happen if we get to a track where Wojcik is as dominant as he was earlier in the season and John Snow is as dominant as he is now. Would those guys be neck and neck battling for an entire race? We can only hope we get to see what that looks like when they're both on their A game. So, okay, so Snow has finished the race. David Macedo still maintaining that lead of Wojcik. It's back up to 1.9 now. So all he's got to do is make these last couple corners, and he's going to come in second. Great podium finish by him, considering he looked like he was going to be lucky to get a top 5, and now he's finishing in second. So great race by David. You see him coming around to get the finish line here. Wojcik behind him, and Moda got it down to 1.8 seconds on Wojcik, but just ran out of time, unable to gain that one more position. So 4th place for Moda, 5th place for Marchishin, which he's pretty lucky to get 5th after that incident, but he ran a really good race. Marchishin did. That one little off track was the only mistake probably the whole race. So you see Pedro coming in 6th. Mike Dougherty finishes in 7th after starting in the pits. So really dominating performance by Dougherty to gain 12 positions from the pits. That's probably, he might have had the best race out of anybody. I don't know if his race would, if you looked at the lap times, if he could have actually beat Jon Snow. I'm not sure. I'm not going to take the time to go through lap after lap and figure that out, but that's a really impressive performance. Same thing for Johnson Liu here, and that's the end of the race, but he's going to finish 9th, and then Marsiglia, Lorenzo, Ben Wolf, Bruce Hopkins, DJ Young, Jonathan Bryan, Scott Taylor, and Logan Wolf. So great finish by all these guys. We are going to go back and look at the beginning of the race like we always do, but we're going to do something a little bit different. After the end of the race, we are going to go over the points. We're going to go over the points, where everybody stands after this race of the season. This is the 5th race of the season, so we got 3 races left. Next week is Imola, and next week is going to be in the dark. So it's going to be a pretty interesting race. We're going to ride on board with Alex Moda in 4th, where he finished. So Alex started in 4th and finished in 4th. Here he is at the start of the race. We're going to see how intense this was. Now, John had a pretty big advantage because he started all by himself on the front row because of that loss of connection by Dougherty. See Marchishin getting a little bit loose there after getting really close to Wojcik, able to hold on to it. Moda getting passed there by David Macedo. That's right, because Moda did fall back to 5th. I forgot about that. So let's take a look at that by Macedo, how he was able to get that done. So he's right on, he's actually on Marchishin. Moda's kind of on the outside, so he's kind of looking down the inside of Moda. Cuts down the inside here, able to make it stick. Moda gave him the room to get it done. Close racing by these guys. Great race by everybody tonight. Nice clean start. You know, we always say that a good finish starts with a great first couple of laps, and these guys did a good job of it again tonight, putting together a clean start to the race. So as always, we want to thank you for watching. We hope that you'll keep joining us. Subscribe to the channel so that you can catch all the races for the rest of the season, and then for next season and going into the future. The racing just gets better. We're getting more and more drivers. We've averaged about 19 to 20 every race this season so far, and after last season we averaged about 10 to 13 every race. So we've increased in size, and the competition is as stiff as ever between all these guys. So we'll take one last look at Jon Snow leading the pack here. These guys better take a long look because he's about to check out and nobody's going to see him anymore. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the race, and we'll see you next week. Alright guys, so here we are after the race at Misano. We're looking at our updated standings. Our updated standings are Mike Wojcik with 129 points, Jon Snow right behind him with 125 points, and Mike Dougherty in 3rd at 116 points. So Dougherty actually dropped down to 3rd. He was in 2nd before the race. After that, we've got David Macedo, Ken North, Andre Marcheshin, Johnson Liu, Alex Moda. You see Johnson Liu and Alex Moda are separated by 1 point. And then Alex Moda is actually tied with Pedro Perez for 8th place with 48 points. 1 point behind that is Joe Marsiglia. 1 point behind him is Evan Miller. And then we got DJ Young, Ben Wolf, Jesse Albert, Lorenzo Liu, Jonathan Bryan, Nick Driveman, Scott Taylor, Scott Hager, Eric Tong, Samuel Rock. You see these 3 guys right here are separated by 1 point each. Jay Vroman in 22nd, Jamie Morrison, Logan Wolf, Stefan Buckley. Logan and Stefan are both tied for 24th. 26th place is going to be Bruce Hopkins, and he raced his first race with us last night, or tonight. He raced his first race with us tonight, so he's on the board as well. So that is our updated standings after week 5 of the season. Next week is Imola. So Imola is going to be our night race for this season. Every season we have one night race. So it should be very interesting, very exciting. The night race went really, really well last season, and I expect it to be really good this week. And practice is very important for the night race. You can't just show up on Saturday and be prepared to race at night. So hopefully these guys put in all the work that they need to make the race fun to watch and really close and intense. And we thank you guys for watching. We will see you next week in the dark at Imola.